welcome students. Today we are going to start with the fourth module. That is, in that fourth module, we are going to discuss about the three-dimensional photoelasticity. Okay, myself, Veeresh Kumar KS, Assistant Professor in the Mechanical Department, Jain Institute of Technology, Davangere. Okay, three-dimensional photoelasticity. What is this three-dimensional photoelasticity? Since in the last class we have discussed about the two-dimensional photoelasticity, where we are considering the model which is having the thickness which is very less. Okay, we have considered the model which is having the very smaller thickness. In that model we have calculated all the stress values such as principal stress, principal strain values. But for the three-dimensional photoelasticity, we are considering the whatever the models which are solid, and it is a three-dimensional in structure. Okay, it is completely solids. So in that type of material, how you are going to find the stresses? So for to determine the stress, we are going to consider the model in the any type of device. So for any part of that model, we have to determine the stress, means it's possible. So in that three-dimensional photoelasticity, we are going to study about this stress freezing method. What is the stress freezing method? We can see this what are the constructions, which is it is nothing but if you consider any polymeric material, it is a hydrocarbon molecular chain which is present inside that polymeric material. Polymeric, it is nothing but the transparent material which you are going to consider here. So it is the hydrocarbon chain. In this hydrocarbon chain, it is consisting of two bonds. One is primary bonds. You can see inside this whatever the this is the lines, the darker lines which are called as primary bonds, and this is the secondary bonds. Just a minute. Okay, this darker lines which you can see this network which is made of a darker line which is connecting these points. These darker lines are called as a primary bonds, which are solid in structures. So it is connection is also going to be somewhat stronger. Okay, another type of bonds are called as secondary bonds. So this secondary bonds, which are you can see inside this whatever the construction, the smaller network. Okay, this network is non-continuous and not that much strong, but this is also going to affect the construction of whatever the this model. Actually, this stress freezing method we are going to apply only for the three-dimensional models. Okay, so this hydrocarbon chains is going to be one of the network. If you apply the load on this hydrocarbon chain, the both primary bonds and secondary bonds are together going to take the load. Okay, this type of constructions. What happens in here? So first, primarily we apply the load to this type of hydrocarbon chain, where the primary bonds and secondary bonds are going to take the load equally. What happens? We increase the temperature of this whatever the material. So as increasing the temperature, these secondary bonds are going to dissolve. Okay, because of the increase in temperature, the secondary bonds are going to be disappear, and it is going to be in the jelly form. It will be converted into a jelly form. So what happens? The whole load is going to be taken by this primary bonds. These primary strong bonds are going to be stronger. It will be taking the load, but this secondary bonds are going to disappear when the temperature is increased. Means when it is reaches the critical temperature, this whatever the secondary bonds are going to disappear. So like that, this construction is going to be there. But when you apply the load, there will be some compression or there will be some elongation which is going to take place in this material, which because of that some stresses are going to be developed inside this hydrocarbon chain. And when you remove the whatever the temperature, if you cool down the temperature, what happens? This secondary bonds again get solidify and make the network, but the first network is going to be changed to some other type of secondary bond network. So at that time, if you just remove the load, whatever the primary bonds are going to be seized. It will not allow that primary bonds to regain its original position. If it is in compressed position, then secondary bonds tends to make this primary bonds to in a compressed position. So the whatever the stress which is present in this material when the load is applied, it will be freezed. So that's why it is called as stress freezing technique. So for to easily understand this, this is the similar explanation for whatever the diagram which I have given. We can see this one example. It is example where uh, one whatever the spring is taken in here, and this is the water. Before that water, it will be in a ice form. Okay, so they are considering on ice form, ice and spring experiment. So you can see here. So what happens, initially it is in the ice form and the spring is in this form, this whatever the unstretched condition. So next step, they are going to load the whatever the model. So what happens, the spring is going to get elongated and ice is also going to get elongated. So in here the spring is the primary bonds and ice is the secondary bond. If you consider the primary and secondary comparison, ice is the secondary bond and spring is the primary bond. When the load is applied, the both primary bond and secondary bond collectively take the load. Okay, ice is also going to take the load and the spring is also going to take the load, and it is going to make some dl1 and whatever the elongation. So even at the next the C temperature, the loaded model at a critical temperature means you are going to apply the temperature for this whatever the model. What happens, when you apply the model, the ice is turned into a water. Okay, the ice which is present in the whatever the model, it will be turned into a water, means that the secondary bonds get dissolved and it will be in the form of water. But the primary bonds is going to take the load. So only primary bond at a critical temperature, it is going to take the load and it will elongate some more, that is delta L2. And third, the D step, the loaded model cooled to the room temperature. At this position, whatever the model is going to be cooled. Then what happens? This water which is present in here, it again get solidify and make it is turned into ice. So as it represents the secondary bonds again solidify and make some structure in this whatever the model. So what happens? So the spring is going to take is in the it is in a stressed condition, and when the water is solidified, it is also going to get the some amount of load. Next, unloaded model at room temperature. Now the load is removed, and you can see the initially ice and spring is going to take the load at this point, but when you see, when you unload this whatever the model, both ice and spring are going to take that whatever the means there is no loading condition, but still you can see there is elongation of the spring, means the spring which is present at here, it is locked because of the ice which is present solidified. So this locked position of the spring is going to be considered as a stress freezing condition. So this stress freezing condition is going to be having some stresses inside this whatever the spring. So what they do, they will make the slices of this model, and wherever you require the stress analysis, that slice is going to be taken for the analysis purpose, such as in the polariscope they will place this whatever the model, and they will check the what is the stress which is present at here. So like that, the stress freezing method is going to be considered in here in the model. Okay, next we move on to the very important topic, that is the scattered light polariscope. So what is the scattered light polariscope? Okay, scattered light polariscope differ in many respects from the conventional transmitted light polariscope. Means in the conventional type, we can see you can see there is a source of light, some polarizer, some model is placed, and analyzer is there, and at the end of that, you can see some camera which is taking the picture of here. But you can see here there is a source in here, some amount of lenses which are provided at here, and you can see the model at here, but there is no analyzer which is present, but you can see at the perpendicular direction you can see a camera. Okay, there is a difference. The conventional, it is going to be camera in this position, but in here it is perpendicular direction. Whatever the light is for, it is moving in this direction, but the viewing angle is in perpendicular direction. Why it is like that? Means whatever the light which is falling on the model at here, it will be scattered. Okay, it is scattered is a phenomena. When the light is going to hit on any particle, it will be get scattered. That scattered light is going to be considered for the analysis in here. Okay, so one advantage of this type of scattered light polariscope is you can measure the stress at any point in this model. Okay, any point. If you want the stress at this point, if you want at this point or at any other points, so you can measure this by just changing the camera angle. By just position, you can changing the camera position, you can see where the stress is going to be there. Okay, that is the advantage of this. So particularly for the three-dimensional photoelasticity, this whatever the scattered light polariscope is going to be used in here. Okay. Uh, you can see the schematic representation. We will just understand here. This is the lamp, which is of 1000 watt mercury lamp. Since for the scattering of light, we require high intensity of a whatever the light source. So that's why we are going to take 1000 watt. But for the conventional type, we are not going to consider that much of heavy watt mercury, whatever the lamps we are going to consider for the source. But in here we require the high intensity lamp because of if you want to get the scattering phenomena. Okay. Next, this light is going to fall on the Wratton some filter 77A filter where the light is going to be filtered. If you have some different type of colors or anything, it can be filtered in here. Next, condenser lens. This condenser lens is very important. What happens? So this diverging light is going to be converted into a parallel line by this condenser line by the help of condenser line. Next is the polarizer. So the polarizer is nothing but it will polarize the light. Next, adjustable slit. This adjustable slit is going to be considered because if you want the stress at any point, means if you want the stress at this point, so the adjustable slit is going to be uh, mounted at this point. But if you want at some other point, you can change this adjustable slit and according to the requirement, you can adjust it. Next, compensator. This compensator is used if you want the fringe pattern at any particular point, you have to set this compensator. This will be help to increase or decrease the whatever the stress fringes in a whatever the model. Next, you can see one tank is there. In the tank, you can see one fluid is filled. It is the model which is immersed in a tank with a controlled index of refractory fluid. Means the model which is having some refractory index and the fluid is also having some refractory index which are same. So then what happens? The light which is coming from here, it will not get any refraction at here and it will be transmitted to the model and it will only get the whatever the scattering of light. Okay. So by that at the any point the whatever scattered light is going to be observed through this camera where you can see what is the amount of stress developed at that point. Okay. So the light is going to be move in a other whatever the vertical direction. This is the construction of the scatter light polariscope. Okay. So this is all about the scattered light polariscope. You have to clearly explain the scattering phenomena in the polariscope, scattered light polariscope, and where the model is mounted and what are the uses of this any parts which are present in this what are scattered light polariscope. And you can change the camera angle to determine what is the means if you want to change the point of stress or point of interest, you can adjust this camera position and you can also adjust this adjustable slit to get the whatever the direction of light in particular path. Okay, like that you have many adjustments that can help in your scattered light polariscope to get stress phenomena in many directions. Okay, so that is the one of the advantage of this scattered light polariscope. So if you compare this scattered light polariscope with the conventional polariscope, it is more advantageous, such as it can measure the stress at any point by just adjusting some whatever the devices. But in the conventional method, we can only determine the stress at only some points. Okay, in a two-dimensional model. So it is one of the advantages compared to the scatter, whatever the conventional type of polariscope. Okay, thank you, students.